Another parking lot, this one much prettier. Bill definitely passed a law in Philly says you use public money for construction, you put some of the money to public beautification.
Yo,
Turned out
look at
well.
that.
And keep your eyes open because public beautification is something we are big on, folks. And on the right, another parking lot. This one with these 4 Chinese bronze dragons out front. Anybody want to guess how you can tell they're Chinese?
Dragons. Joseph, I think it's pretty
Wrong.
obvious.
4 claws
Yeah.
Chinese. They're all very specific with the dragon morphologies
just
of
filming.
East Asian pantheons. If I remember my readings, Japanese dragons have 5 claws. Korean dragons have only 3. Those have 4 claws, and they are therefore Chinese dragons specifically. And they're here because this is our entrance to Philly's Chinatown, which at 7 city blocks is the second largest Chinatown in the United States, after of course San Francisco's on the west coast. And have your cameras pointed to the right by the time we get to the next intersection, because we're going to be seeing the Chinatown Friendship Gate, and you do want a photo of that, I guarantee. By the way, Philly Chinatown started at the same time as most others, around the railroad boom, 1880s, 1890s. Most of those folks didn't actually intend to stay. Most Chinese rail workers just wanted to come over here and work for a couple of seasons, go home with the cash. But a few would stay, and here we are. And there we have it, folks, the Chinatown Friendship Gate gift to us from our sister city of, I believe it's pronounced Tianqiang. We sent them a copy of our bell, they sent us that. I'll say it, we got the better end of that deal. By the way, the gate is what they call a freestanding structure.
I feel bad for the people over there.
Like I said, you gotta watch them trees. If you don't know what a freestanding structure is, that means there ain't nothing holding the Chinatown Friendship Gate together except the craftsmanship. It's like a giant 3D jigsaw puzzle. No pins, nails, screws, paper, tape, or gum. And of course, we got plenty of shops around here, folks. A lot of good stuff to eat. We have the beginning of the Pennsylvania Convention Center up ahead of us on the right. And that bridge extending across the road is part of it now, but originally it was part of the building over on the left, the Reading Railroad Terminal, or today known for the Reading Terminal Market. And yes, it's Reading, not Reading. We are not affiliated with Reading Rainbow or LeVar Burton. But And watching this tree again. But yeah, on the left over here we got the marketplace. This is about 130 years old this year now, folks. One of the buildings in there is actually the oldest ice cream store in America. First place you could go to buy ice cream at. Got another question for you. What do you think the first flavor of ice cream for sale in the United States was?
Vanilla!
Everybody says vanilla first, they're always wrong.
Chocolate!
Strawberry, chocolate, usually second and third, also wrong. Let me lay it out, folks. This was 130 years ago, 1890s.
Water.
Vanilla, very expensive being import. Chocolate, also very expensive import. Strawberry takes a lot of work to get cultivated up. Mint, you gotta put a lot of work to get it usable. Butter, that's a good bet, but no. Caramel, no, that comes from sugar, which is, again, very expensive.
Rocky Road!
Y'all wanna know what grows real good in the gardens around these parts? The flavor of the day was sweet New Jersey yellow tomato ice cream. Yeah. Because they grow like freaking weeds around these parts, y'all. Yeah, it turns out when you industrially grow tomatoes in the Garden State of New Jersey, you discover there is an upper limit to the amount of marinara you can make in a lifetime. And check out the left side. Down the street here, you got City Hall. B-E-A. Beautiful, isn't it? That's got William Penn up top of the building, our city's founder. It is, by the way, what they call a masonry building, which, if you don't know, means there ain't nothing holding the building up except the stone it's made from. No steel girders, no iron beams, no wooden frame. Very impressive. Comcast 1, the top observation decks in Philadelphia are still currently closed, last I checked, on account of the ongoing coronavirus concerns. You can't just open up a window and air it out, you know? But that is, the second tallest building in the city of Philadelphia, Comcast 1. It's supposed to look like a USB drive. I think it looks more like a cheese grater when you look at it from the other sides.
What?
And of course, we also got Love Park over here on the left side. We'll see the famous Love statue later on when we come back, of course. Love Park, originally designed by Mr. Edmund Bacon, father of esteemed actor Kevin Bacon. So there's your 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon for the tour. All right, I misspoke. We're going to see the Love statue now, folks. On the right, the famous statue from all the postcards. Yep. Yeah, I know. It's smaller than you're expecting, right, folks? Yeah, it shrank. We left it out in the sun, in the rain. No, it's always been that size. It's 9 feet in the air on those stilts. If you take a photo of it from just standing on the ground, it looks bigger than it is because, you know, it's you're taking it from a low angle. Perspective trick. As we go around City Hall here, a little bit of history about City Hall. It's covered in some 250 sculptures and carvings, all of which were done by the same guy, which kind of explains why it took 30 entire years to build this thing. It was supposed to be the tallest thing in the world, but that's what taking that long will do to your plans. On the right, you may notice a statue of 2 lovers in an embrace and a kiss. Or to you, it might look like a clothespin. The statue is called The Kiss. It's by someone who's very much a fan of seeing the lovely and the wonderful in the mundane and ordinary. As you go around City Hall, on the left, you got Octavius Catto there, man who helped get African-American people the right to vote. He also, before that, got Philadelphia streetcars completely desegregated, which is why the statues behind him are a segmented streetcar. In front of us here, we got the Wanamaker building. This big old thing here was the first proper modern department store in the United States. John Wanamaker actually did quite a few things to help modernize American commerce, such as implementing the sticker price guarantee, no more haggling at the register. He also is the guy who coined the phrase, "The customer is always right." Don't get too mad at him, though. He just meant it in terms of taste, not like in general. And of course, City Hall is absolutely gorgeous as a masonry building, in no small part thanks to that church-looking building out in front of us, the Masonic Temple, meeting house of the Brotherhood of Freemasons. And yes, when I say Freemason, I do mean like the conspiracy theory ones. I've looked around a few times, I haven't found anything spooky, but then again, I'm not Nick Cage, so you never know. And back down Market Street, here we go, y'all. One of the 2 main arteries of Philadelphia. One of the only streets in town that has an actual subway still running under it, the other one being Broad Street, which crosses Market underneath City Hall. The Market Street subway is, by the way, called the L because it's an elevated line everywhere except Center City. Coming up on the left at the next corner, we have the Hard Rock Cafe, which, if you're wondering, the reason it's here and not back in West Philadelphia, born and raised, is because the Fresh Prince is pretty cool. He's pretty big on Philly's modern pop culture, but this is a little more closely to actual rock and roll, because this intersection in front of us was the original site of filming for the show that would become known as American Bandstand, which is the show that would help bring rock and roll to the American mainstream. Starting up right here in Philly as simply Bandstand. And of course we also have here the other end of Reading Market, or the Reading Terminal specifically. This is where you can enter into the mall, the train terminal that's still underground, and a few other things besides. And speaking of the mall, here it is on the side of us. This is the Fashion District, Philadelphia's Center City shopping mall. There's another one for about 10 miles in any given direction. And they call it Fashion District, but it's a regular mall. That sounds like it only sells clothes, right? The name, but they won't list the name. A little bit of history that's not exactly on the tour route here, but you might find this one interesting. About 2.5 blocks from here, we actually have the oldest continuously operating theater in the English-speaking world, which I only know about because I used to work there on the phones. Yeah, when I was selling tickets, the tagline was, "We're so old we had a reserved seat for Thomas Jefferson." Jerk that he was.
Wait, what?
But yeah, a little bit of history there. And more than just that, there's all sorts of stuff. Like, had the Marx Brothers perform there once early on in their careers. World premiere of a show called A Streetcar Named Desire, and the debut of a guy named Marlon Brando during that. And there's also a bit of history there in that it's the site of the second ever televised presidential debate, which was between Jerry Ford and the challenger Jimmy Carter. Now, that's the part of the history that's on this placard in the lobby. The part that they don't tell you, that I only know because they gave us a tour when I started, was actually that, Gerald Ford, president, he was kind of a beanpole, like 6'3" and skinny as a rake. He was kind of a klutz, kind of tripped over his feet sometimes. They showed us, when you go from the stage to the backstage, the way you do that is there's two arched doorways in the brick wall behind the curtain, one on either side. And on the side Jerry was on, you had there is in yellow paint the words, "Jerry Ford's head was here." Dude bonked his head on the door frame.
Damn.
There's all sorts of history, y'all. Got some historic shops that have been incorporated into the modern commercial scene on the left here, folks. All sorts of stuff. The upper floors are mostly admin and rental sites, but the lower floors are still commerce to this day. And we have the very nice Litz building up at the corner here, where you could get all sorts of fancy stuff. You can even get your cat trimmed free of charge, which was what they call it when they decorated somebody's cat up with, like flowers and ribbon and such. Coming up on the right, you might see the house with tan shutters up here at the corner. This is the Decoration House. It's a reconstruction of the building Tommy Jefferson was living in when he was drafting up the Declaration of Independence. Great place. This was, get this, actually outside of city limits at the time of the Revolution. Yeah, Philadelphia in all its glory stretched all the way from the river out to 7th Street. So, not exactly a massive metropolitan hub at the time. And we're coming up on Independence Mall, where, among other things, we may see Independence Hall. And that's going to be coming up on this next block. We also have the site of the Ghost House, George Washington's presidential mansion. It used to be right up here at this corner. They did partial reconstruction here. That's why it looks like it's not done yet. They got all sorts of info there about, how the house was run, what each room was used for, the various slaves George Washington owned when he was living in Philadelphia, what happened then after he died. And he said they would be freed, but they were going to his wife instead. All that good stuff I never learned about in grade school, so, I appreciate it being there. And next to that, we have the Liberty Bell in this long building. Where's the bell? It's in here. It is free to enter, but you got to go through security to get in. Just about 15 years ago, some guy went up to the bell with a hammer in his backpack and tried to take it apart the loud way. And that's why we can't have nice things. That said, you can just see the bell from the outside through the glass once we make this turn, while we're also going by the three buildings of Independence Hall. The courthouse here at the corner, the State House in the middle with the two wings, and the old City Hall at the opposite end. The courthouse is where the U.S. Congress would meet at for the first 3 years of the country's existence, during which time this was the Capitol, which is why we now call the courthouse Congress Hall. During that same time, the U.S. Senate would meet in Philadelphia's City Hall, the old City Hall building at the other end, but we don't call that Senate Hall for some reason. And in the middle, folks, we have, of course, the State House, where we had the historic events of Nicolas Cage filming National Treasure. Yes, and also the signing of both the Declaration of Independence at the start of the Revolution and the U.S. Constitution after its completion. Oh, fun fact, they sometimes say in schools about how, we had such influence from the Greeks on our democracy, and it is true. There is a little bit of Athenian democracy in the U.S. Constitution, but there's arguably even more from the Native Americans. specifically the Haudenosaunee, or people of the long house,
I
as the
think we
name.
should.
I said no grabbing. No grabbing. Touch, yes. Grab, no. That's all. I said that. It's leaves. It's fine. Anyway, yes, Haudenosaunee, people of the long house, referred to both how they got through the winters in the north of Pennsylvania, living in one big house with the whole community with a fire in the middle, and also how they thought about their confederation of, at the time, 5 different independent nations in one long line of states that had lived together in a confederated union, as we call it now, since at least the 1400s, possibly as far back as the 700s. But of course, it's a little hard to get specific dates from a people that still function on an oral tradition history. That's actually a acknowledged fact by the U.S. government that the Haudenosaunee 117 laws for the rights of the people and the rules for the government, known as their Great Law of Peace in their language, formed a piece of the basis for the U.S. Constitution. George Washington and Ben Franklin actually went up to their lands to learn how they kept it all hanging still before they came back to the Continental Congress to help make the American Constitution. We've got the Worldwide Day of Prayer over there. That's always cool to see that roll through. It does mean we're going to have to, we did have to change our locations a little bit. By the way, on the right side, we've got the National Museum of American Jewish History here, with religious liberty standing tall, and our bilingual statue in yellow. What makes it bilingual? Well, you look at it from the street side, it says yo. You look at it from the Jewish Museum side, it says oi. Little Jewish joke for you. But yeah, Philly got some of the oldest Jewish and Islamic congregations in the country because of Quakers starting us up in Minnesota than most others. Such as over on the right, the Congregation Mikveh Israel, oldest Jewish congregation in the country, still in existence at least. Right next to Old Christ Church Cemetery, where we got a lot of colonial people, not none so revolutionary though as the man at the corner, Mr. Ben Franklin. Yes, our good friend Mr. Ben is up here at the corner, folks. Right behind that corner, you see where the fence is with the giant crowd in front of it? He's right in there. He's got his wife with him and his daughter, one of his sons, but not the other son. Why not? Because the other son sided with England. Yeah, Ben Franklin's own son sided with the Loyalists. Who would have guessed?
Wow.
And of course, right next to that, we have the Mint, which was started by, you guessed it, Ben Franklin. He's freaking everywhere, y'all. Ben started the first Mint in the United States right here in Philadelphia, about 2 blocks away. And it shifted to this building in, I believe, the mid-70s, and still goes. The Philadelphia Mint makes coin, not bills, because, well, the country was still kind of umming and erring on the whole question of paper money. Part of the reason that the revolution hadn't gone so great is because, as statesmen, the founders were really good at being dudes of position, but not really good at statecraft. And they tried to pay the entire Continental Army by just literally printing more money, which made money just about worthless because everyone had entire stacks of it. So yeah, the revolution was actually funded on massive deflation, the personal fortunes of the first treasurer who got the job because he was rich, and George Washington asking his troops very politely to pretty please don't desert even though we haven't paid you in 6 months. Yeah. That's what happens when your country doesn't have any actual tax enforcement laws because you're fighting a rebellion on the basis of, to heck with you, I don't want to pay taxes. But that's more high-minded than this, so check this out. We're currently on Race Street, but that wasn't always its name. Originally, this was Sassafras. That's fun to say that. Sassafras Street.
What?
Now that's the name of a tree, by the way, specifically the tree we get root beer from. And the fact that it was a tree was actually very important. See, you might not recognize this, but the street grid we're driving around on today, all these nice right-angle corners, that dates all the way back to the 1680s under the founder himself, William Penn. You may wonder, why would he go to all that trouble when normally people just let cities sprawl out wherever back then? Well, it's very simple. William Penn lived through what they call the Great Fire of London. He wanted to make sure that would not happen in his town. And, well, folks, what is London? A giant maze. What's that make it hard to do? Makes it hard to get a fire truck where it needs to go. So he puts down the street grid before any other English get where they get over here to mess it up. But there's one small issue, and that issue is literacy. Almost nobody knew how to read. So you had to get clever with the street signs. All the north-south streets, like that one we just crossed, numbered instead of named. All the east-west streets named after trees, so you could plant one of that tree at every corner. They might not know how to read, but they still knew how to count, because that's how you count your coin. And they still knew how to tell trees apart, because that's where your food comes from. And check this out, on the right, at the end of the building, concrete slab, the old Sassafras street sign next to us here. That's how you know, and I just pulled this out of my hat. And of course the Sassafras Market as well. But you may wonder, how do you get from Sassafras to race? Well, it's very simple. It is just because of context. See, back in the day, all the yahoos in town didn't have dirt bikes to take up and down other people's driveways at God knows when in the morning. Oh, by the way, Patty's Pub on the side here, if anybody's a fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the TV show. Yes, it's a real bar. No grab. But of course, yes, back in the day they didn't have much to do, so the yahoos in town would race their horses up and down this street to get their kicks, and that's how you eventually it got the name. The locals and even the city government started calling it simply the Race Street. And of course up here we got the Ben Franklin Bridge, because we got one of everything named after old Ben. Got some folks putting up some new construction here. This used to be just a little one-story restaurant, but it kind of got decrepit, so now they're putting in something new to take its place. And of course, as we're turning here, we've got, of course, the Fireman's Hall Museum coming up on the left side, just past this street. Fireman's Hall Museum used to be a firehouse itself. That's why it's got them double doors there. It keeps it big enough so that the fire trucks can get out. Back in the day, they were much smaller back then. And also on the left, coming up, we got this gap in the buildings, Elfrid's Alley, the oldest continuously occupied street in the country. You look down here, this is pretty much exactly what the city looked like all the way back to the Revolution. You know, give or take a couple of anachronistic flags and the occasional parked pickup truck. But that tells you about why they call this particular area of Center City Old City. It's where all the old stuff is. Not because we bulldozed all the other old stuff, but because it's where all the oldest stuff started. Yeah, we didn't build up everywhere at once. We started over here on the east side next to the Delaware River, 2 blocks that way, and then gradually built west as time went on. That's why all the firstly, all the historic stuff is on this side of City Hall, and all the skyscrapers are on the other side of it, because that's where they had room to build them. And speaking of historic, we're coming up on Betsy Ross's house, going to be coming up on the right. The woman who made the first well-known flag of the United States, the 13 stars in a circle flag, if you're a little rusty. It's going to be coming up just past these 3 little trees on the right side. And it is a nice little place. You can actually go on a tour in there, learn all about her life and her times and her various husbands. A distinctly non-zero number, which were pirates. Yes, here is her house, folks. Both the front and the back section are hers. She had 3 husbands, and 2 of them were pirates by trade.
Let me get a bagel. Let me get a bagel. Let me get a bacon egg and cheese. Let me get a bacon egg and cheese. Let me bacon egg and cheese.
And coming up on the right, on the left, behind this brick wall, we got the Arch Street Meeting House. This is where the Quakers would, back in the day, go and meet and discuss the matters of the day. Quakers, again, the people who started the Pennsylvania colony under William Penn. By the way, Quaker, not their actual name. And also we got this big old bust of Ben Franklin over here. I'll get back to the Quaker thing in a sec. The statue got a texture to it because it's made of donated keys and pennies. Keys for the key and the kite lightning experiment. Pennies for that phrase is, no penny saved is a penny earned. And speaking of pennies, we're back at the mint again. So, Quakers, by the way, yes, Quaker like the oats. That's what the guy on the box is supposed to look like. But Quaker is not their name. Technically, they are the Religious Society of Friends. We call them Quakers because, unlike other Protestants back in the day, they would actually incorporate a form of dance into their worship ceremonies, and the other Protestants of the day were very, very repressed. So they would wander past the windows and glance in, see everybody jumping all the hell around. Did not know what the heck they were looking at, thought everyone was having a dang seizure. But here we are at Ben's grave again, folks. Check it out. You can see it clear, but the crowd's gone. And if you see behind those folks some brown specks on Ben's grave, people leave pennies on Ben's grave for luck. Again, because of that phrase of his, penny saved, penny earned. Imagine being so clever, you're still making money 200 years after you're dead, huh, folks? Well, that's just how Ben was. And, of course, we got over here the National Constitution Center, where you can learn all there is to know about the foundational documents of the United States. All the amendments to it, all that good stuff. You can even get your own copy of the Constitution, which I feel like that would have saved Nick Cage a lot of effort that one time. All right, y'all, that is the end of our loop. If you're feeling generous, we got a tip jar by the door. If you have any trash, we have a trash can next to the stairwell. Kindly, please, gather your things, proceed off the bus at your own pace, and if you're